Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up now.
Oh shoot, we lost Lil. Hello everyone, happy Friday. I was joined by Lil, but I guess her internet died during the intro. She may be back. So welcome to the 19th day of Atheist Advent. And as always, we're starting with our random geology Advent calendar. And these are so fun because we get random rocks and half the time the descriptions are wrong, and it's amazing. So day 19, today we have one of these, one of this, whatever. Focus, camera, focus. It can't do it, Captain. It's not it. There we go. Okay. Okay, it did for a second. Anyway, it's very whitish and very crystally. And I'm looking at the list of rocks, and I'm not finding one that looks even remotely like it. Like, the closest I've got is the amethyst, and I don't think that's an amethyst. It's here. I'll hold up a light so you can see better. Maybe it's too bright for the camera. I don't fucking know, but it's very sparkly. It's very twinkly. I know I've seen this kind of rock before. You know what? It sparkles like a geode. I bet this is the quartz geode, even though I thought for sure we had that one already. So basically it's rock crystal. It's the outer side of it is just regular rock. This side it's just, I don't know, calcite or something. And then the inside is all sparkly and whatnot because it's quartzes. So yeah. hexagonal crystals that can be small and sparkling or huge. And that's an interesting thing too, because there's a cave in Mexico for sure, and probably elsewhere in the world, where there's gigantic freaking quartzes. They're just quartz, but they're like meters long. It's freaking wild. It looks like we may have a Lil again.
Sorry, I had to reboot. My computer was being stupid.
It was being Scarlet?
Yes, it was. Just like me. Those crystals you were talking about, I think the biggest one is it's either 12 meters or 20 meters. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it's like you see the pictures of these things and the people are like this big and the crystals are like this big. It's absurd. It's so cool.
I know the first time I saw it, I thought it was fake. Like this was
Me
before
too!
AI generation, but I was like, no, it's a prop or something.
Mm-hmm. I do have sad news about it, that it no longer exists. It has been reflooded.
I mean, that means the crystals get to grow more, though.
Hopefully, yeah.
But there's so many more. There's so many more places like that around in the world that haven't been discovered. Like, consider, we think we've discovered all there is to discover about the Earth's surface. And yet, in just the last century, when there were already humans everywhere bombing everything, we found the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Uritic stash and like stuff that's been hidden for thousands of years.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff all over the place, you know? We don't know everything.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Things are harder to find. I mean, hell, our friend Doc Dino went with Grayson on an expedition and found freaking dino bones just lying in the open. They're just, because of erosion, they're exposed. They're just, boop, there they are, just lying around.
Yeah, here we have, you can go outside and find like little coral fossils and all that, because of course this entire area used to be an ocean, but there's coral fossils all over the place and like sea lilies and all that stuff. It's really cool.
Oh my. I love finding stuff, because like if you get to be the first one to find it, or at least to realize what it is, then because if somebody else gets to it first, it's blocked off, you can't see it. It gets shipped to a museum and then you have to pay admission or whatever. And it's great to preserve that stuff and get it where the people whose career is studying these things can study it easier. But like removing it from the natural world and putting it behind a paywall is kind of capitalist bullshit, you know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was lucky enough to get to visit the Smithsonian Natural History Museum before it got all taken over. But still, the cool thing that I love about the Smithsonian, and that hopefully will once they have been like restored to properness, I guess, is that they're free. Yeah, which they're absolutely free. You can walk
except for the butterfly exhibit.
I've never been to I didn't get. I was only in DC for like 3 or 4 days, so. But
I had like a few hours, and I made a point. Okay, I always wanted to go to all the Smithsonian museums because they all have nifty stuff. I've been to Air and Space, as you might guess, because I'm a huge space nerd.
I wanted to go so bad.
I wanted to go to Natural History to see the mammoth near one of the entrances and to see the butterflies. The mammoth I saw, the butterflies you have to pay. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, when I was there, we saw the Natural History Museum. We went to the African American History Museum. I've got a picture of me with one of the rocks that's outside the American Indian National Museum. I forgot exactly what it's called, but the rock is one of the is a piece of Acosta gneiss, which is the oldest rock in the world. It's like 4 billion years old, and it's the geekiest picture I've ever taken, but I love it. And also saw the Holocaust Museum while I was there, obviously. So, but that's all I got to see. I'm sad I didn't get to see more.
I know. It's well, the good news is there's more virtual tours of the pre-destruction of America period. While I was there were multiple people running around with VR cameras and 3D spatial scan cameras and whatnot. So I'm sure if they're not available yet, they're in the works of there being like immersive, basically VR walkthroughs. And remember, you don't necessarily have to have a VR headset to use a VR. It just looks best that way. But you could still use like a tablet or pretend phone like mine and hold it up like a window and turn and you know? You can do that too. Or just use a computer and use your mouse to scroller. It's not the same, but you can still do it. You can still see the things, you know? It's pretty neat.
Yeah, they're so cool.
And using some of our coolest stuff to make more of our coolest stuff more accessible, that's peak humanity, which is kind of the opposite of today's topic, pseudoscience. So our Bible verse for the day is to lead astray, because that's what pseudoscience does. And so today we're going to try to understand what makes science real, what makes pseudoscience not, and why pseudoscience tends to disproportionately affect women. I'm actually doing essay format today. Here's what we're going to try to do, and now we're going to try to do it. In this essay, I will show. I don't actually have it like in a proper layout, because who the fuck has the time to pre-prepare that many video essays? I've been saying for years how I'd like to do video essays like the way Philosophy Tube does. I mean, granted, I can't afford props, costumes, art department, makeup people, etc. But like to present them in that kind of format. But doing one takes Abby Thorne months, and she has a staff of professionals, and I'm going to do 24 of them in a single month. I'm going to need a bigger Patreon for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're going to do our best. Goodness. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you're watching, if you're new here, take a minute to hit the subscribe button. If you're watching in the future, hello, future people. Also, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you can join us in future live shows. We'd love to see you in the live chat. We do this every Monday through Friday, weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Different topics every day, but lately they've been all science flavored, and I'm fucking loving it.
Me too.
But we also do bonus shows. In fact, I wanted to tell all of y'all, next week's adult Bible study is going to be on Tuesday, so we don't conflict with any of the holiday programming. And I need to try out different days with it anyway, so we're going to try it on Tuesday and dodge the holiday problem. So hooray. So make sure you've got the notifications turned on for that as well. There may be bonus shows this weekend. Saturday, I'm over at Mark's for the debate review, because we go back and forth every week. This week, it's over at Mark's. So Saturday and Sunday, I don't have anything scheduled here. However, you know, when I don't have anything scheduled is when I'm most likely to pop up with the bonus show. So make sure you've got the bell rung. Keep an eye out and things. All right. So, Tawid asks, what pseudoscience are we going to be talking about? And that's the thing. Every time people try to address pseudoscience, they get down a path of specific pseudosciences, like young earth creationism or flat earth or anti-vax or phrenology or whatever the case may be. I want to get to the root of pseudoscience so that we can deal with it whenever it comes up, even if it's not presented as a fake scientific discipline. Like when people use the same kind of biases, which is why we had to talk about the psychology of bias first, when they use the same sort of biases and magical thinking to try to justify something that isn't true based on stuff that sounds science-ish. And one of the big giveaways of pseudoscience, and I'm just riffing off the top of my head here, is when people unnecessarily insert excessively intellectual sounding language to make themselves seem like more of an authority. Now, this can be tough to determine because sometimes people who are, trained science communicators like Forrest Valkai will use technical language when it's appropriate and suitable. But then you've got people like Jordan Peterson who are just doing their best to put as many syllables into a sentence as they can. What you got there?
I just realized I'm wearing my Mr. Farina shirt.
Mr. Farina!
Mr. Farina! I just realized I was wearing this. I was like, this is the perfect shirt to be wearing.
It's true, because James Tour is a young Earth creationist. He doesn't talk about it when it comes to his chemistry much, but that's the reason he's so against abiogenesis research, is because he has this preconception from his young Earth creationism that it's impossible for abiogenesis to work. It's motivated reasoning. It's literally magical thinking underlying his opposition to science. So, yeah. Radiated Sith says, Mr. Who? Mr. Farina is Professor Dave's name, Dave Farina. And this is James Tour, who actually does have a PhD. He's actually quite a good chemist. But he's also a young Earth creationist, and he lets his religious beliefs contaminate his scientific beliefs. So on chemistry, he's just fine. But once he starts to creep out of direct chemistry, he immediately runs face first into pseudoscience.
Yeah. Like, I understand abiogenesis better than he does. And I do not have a degree in chemistry. It's ridiculous. It's obvious he has no idea what he's talking. He's either has no idea what he's talking about or he's outright lying. One of the two. I think it's a mix of both.
Well, here's the neat thing. With religious pseudoscience, it's a special kind of motivated reasoning. To them, it's not lying if they're telling a higher truth. So they can kind of justify the dishonesty, or even sometimes manage to convince themselves. Like we often have debates over whether apologists like Frank Turek and Ray Comfort actually believe the bullshit they say, or if they're just grifting off of gullible people. It can kind of be a bit of both, you know? Oh, yeah, you know. Tawheed says, we as Muslims, and my apologies for skipping the first word. I have no idea how to pronounce it, and I don't want to screw it up. But he says, we as Muslims don't believe in 6,000-year-old Earth or flat Earth or universe in 6 earthly days. In general, yes. But I've met Muslims who do think those things, much like Christians in general don't think those things, but there are Christians who do. And technically there's non-Christians, although almost all of them tend to be Christians, let's be honest. And that's the thing, is when you confront them with the science, they always fall back on, but the Bible says. It doesn't matter what reality says. These words written down by men say otherwise, and therefore that's true. And that's
so the Bible tells me so.
Yeah. Now, again, not all pseudosciences are based in religion, but there's similarities to religion in every one of them. Spiritism, for example, was and that one's contaminated the culture to the point that people actually say, I'm spiritual, not religious, not realizing that spiritism is technically a religion. It's just an atheistic religion because there's no God in it, but you're still believing in and performing rituals in pseudo worship of spiritual supernatural entities. But never mind that. It's a whole freaking thing. Kelly's here to say tangents. Absolutely.
Tangents. Always. Always.
People come here for the tangent. All right. So I want to start with, how did pseudoscience start? Like, we've always known there are people who do science badly, but that doesn't make it pseudoscience. It just makes them wrong, right? You know, there's a difference between being honestly incorrect and dishonestly deceptive. And that's an important distinction. So The term pseudoscience showed up in 1796, according to the lexicographers and dictionaries and the people who track this sort of thing. It was in a writing by a fellow named James Petit Andrews, who was trying to draw a distinction between alchemy and chemistry. And while chemistry is a real science, and alchemy is similar in many ways, alchemy also includes weird magic ideas like potions that can make you live forever, or processes where you can turn lead into gold, which we know you can't actually do through chemical reactions. I mean, you could do it with a particle collider, but it'd be more expensive than the atom of gold would be worth.
I was about to say, we actually do know how to do that now, just not worth it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, alchemy had a bunch of magical stuff in it. And the reason it did is because it hadn't fully differentiated from philosophy as a full-fledged science. There was still a lot of what if, and not so much on the let's find out, you know? And it's kind of the issue. So Andrews described alchemy as a pseudoscience in that it was similar to science, but wasn't really science. But that's not what we mean by pseudoscience these days. Because with alchemy, there have always been people who try to take advantage of anything humans know to exploit others. But most of the people who researched alchemy seem to be broadly genuine, just a little misguided with the way they didn't discriminate on what we would now consider scientific, something that's testable and falsifiable and so forth. They just kind of went, well, this explains stuff and it sounds neat, so I'm just going to pass it off as true, you know? It's wild. Yeah. So we started to see it a little bit more in the 18th century with Franz Mesmer, the mesmerism guy, right? While some of his techniques seem to have a basis in modern psychology, a lot of them are woo-woo. He's the one who popularized the idea of animal magnetism, which you absolutely should never mention to Dr. Tapioca Weasel, because that is how he keeps his weasels all stuck together. They're magnetic. That's a community joke for those of you who are new. Our good friend Maya does a show called Bad Science Sunday on Sunday nights. The co-host is a physicist who goes by Dr. Tapioca Weasel, and has revealed, much to our chagrin, that he is in fact 5 weasels in a trench coat that looks like a human. Hence, jokes are funny when you explain them. It is known. Kip has opinions. So right.
That's Pixie, actually.
Oh, it's Pixie. Pixie has opinions. Fantastic. Goodness.
Yeah, she's usually quiet.
Radiated Sith says electroplating works as well, as long as you don't look too close at the gold. That's fair. Oh, goodness. All right. So yeah, Mesmer, he had the idea of animal magnetism, and he used therapeutic vital forces, mimicking physical science, but relying on subjective experience, substituting anecdotes for evidence, and all manner of bad practice. So what he produced, while there were some interesting ideas in it, it was pseudoscientific. There wasn't testable hypotheses. There wasn't reproducible results, this sorts of things. What is reproducible is Sapphire Light sending a member chat for the 3rd time. See, it's been reproduced. And Sapphire says, essays should start, hello, my name is Ember. And that, for those of you who are new, is a reference to the doctoral thesis of Kent, the criminal Hovind. Not to be confused with Eric, the scam artist Hovind, who, to my knowledge, doesn't have any criminal convictions. But whatever the case may be, his infamous doctoral thesis begins with, hello, my name is Kent Hovind. Amazing. So yeah, absolutely true.
Yeah,
Right?
there's actually There's apparently a huge beef between Eric and Kent too, because like Kent gave all his property apparently to Eric, and Eric won't give it back.
Uh-huh. That is basically
It's
it. Yeah.
hilarious. I
Kent,
love the family drama.
when Kent was getting sent off to prison, he
Mhm.
gave the entirety of his creationist enterprise, which was worth around $8 to $10 million at the time, to Eric, so that the government couldn't seize it. And off he went to prison. And while he was in prison, Eric sold off the original Dinosaur Adventureland and took all the assets and stuff and rebranded as Creation Today Ministries, and now he's worth 14 million. And Kent has had to rebuild from nothing, and today is worth a measly 4 million.
Boo!
We are all in the wrong line of work, folks.
Yes, we are.
Lying to people badly makes you a millionaire in just a couple of years. Shit. Oh, yeah.
Why? Why?
I don't know. Maybe we should be reversing this episode and teaching people how to pseudoscience better for their own financial well-being. Oh, goodness. Robin says he claims Eric stole his underwear, which is fair considering he stole Eric's at one time. But never mind.
Oh, good God.
He abused the hell out of Eric, and he talked about it on lives. Like,
yeah,
dude.
Oh, yeah, no, apparently Kent just sent, like, his followers after Eric because Eric also filed a restraining order. And so, like, won't let Kent anywhere near him. So, like, good for Eric for that, but holy crap, dude, stop being a scam artist.
Now, don't get me wrong. Eric is by no means a victim. He's a better grifter than his dad is. He's taking advantage of people, and he's using it for nationalist white supremacy bullshit. He put his money in the nationalist Trump 2024, the world after Trump movie about how Trump is the true prophet of God and is going to bring about the revelation and shit, where they interviewed all the extreme right-wing politicians and whatnot. Eric was an executive producer. So yeah, he's not just peddling silly bullshit for profit. He's doing active evil with it. He's by no means innocent. But when it comes to the relationship between Eric and Kent, I cannot blame Eric for anything.
No.
In that specific regard.
I am closer to a prophet of God than Trump is, and that's saying something. So, oh my God.
Well, here's the key distinction is some people want to be a prophet of God and some people want to profit from God. And the ones who try to do that are better at capitalism.
They just need to learn how to spell, apparently. They're spelling profit wrong.
I mean, spelling was not tightly controlled in the first century. I'm just throwing that out.
True, it was not.
Oh, goodness. All right, so we come to the 19th century, the pseudoscience era, one might say. We get the rise of the ologies, industrialization, right? As industries grew, marketing grew, everybody wanted an expert to lend their authority to their new product. Like, try our new lead-based toothpaste that's recommended by 9 out of 10 dentists who didn't die from the lead-based toothpaste. That sort of thing. So the interest in understanding things grew, but nobody was really interested. Well, not nobody, but few people were interested in doing it in that stuffy old scientific way with publishing and peer review. They just wanted to like declare things because it's faster and easier. And so we had stuff like phrenology, right? Where you would study the skull bumps on a person's head and note their characteristics. And eventually you'd collect data and you'd say, okay, people who have this kind of brow ridge seem to all be alcoholics. And people who have this kind of bump on the back of their head all seem to have a temper. And people who have a weak chin tend to be betas, or whatever the case may be. You like try to make these correlations and then declare them to be causative. And ta-da, you have a science. Even though it doesn't work at least as often as it does, because it's completely fucking coincidental. There's a similar one called physiognomy. Words are hard, folks. Physiognomy. Face reading. It's like palm reading, but with your face. You check out the lines around the eyes. Oh, I can see from the lines around your eyes, you are very fucking old. You're gonna die soon. Like, what are we doing? But they tried to like overcomplicate it and make it seem scientific. It's the pretense of scientificness to get people to believe it. And not great, because all it did was make people distrustful of legitimate science, because they can't tell what's a scam and what isn't. Then we get into the spiritualism, right? The movement, the Fox sisters with the seances, and granted, they weren't the only ones, but they were pretty fucking famous about it, and they were from just up the road from me. In fact, I live within an hour of both the Fox sisters' homestead and Joseph Smith's farm.
Oh
like,
my god!
All this nonsense came out of my area, and I feel like I need to apologize for that.
Trust me, you have nothing to apologize for. I come from Texas, the land of fucking like Texas fascists. It's like insane. Like Texas is crazy. So I apologize on behalf of all Texans.
Yeah. Another one, homeopathy, which you might recognize from the thumbnail, because I mean, I was trying to think of like, how can I show pseudoscience in an image? Homeopathy. Now, a lot of people in the US have this weird idea about homeopathy. They tend to confuse it with naturopathy, which is natural herbs and remedies and whatnot, which is also still not actually medicine. But homeopathy is a specific kind of fake medicine. It's this idea that water has memory. And so if you put a chemical into water and you perform a certain magic ritual, then the water will remember the chemical as you dilute it over and over and over until there's no original chemical left in it. And then you take the water and it's supposed to have an increased effect over actually taking the medicine. It's pretty fucked up. Bree says, give us the money or we'll ghost you. That's right. We're gonna be the Fox sisters for anywhere.
You can have all my money. Just let me get paid first.
I know. I'm excited. I get paid by Google tomorrow probably, and then I can have a heater again. So I do still have the one heater, and I've been running it full blast for days. I'm giving it a break right now, partly so you can hear me on the microphone, but it actually has, because it was like in the low 40s yesterday. So it's gotten a little warmer in here, which is why I don't need to wear my winter coat today. But holy shit, I can get a heater tomorrow. Oh, excitement or something. Now that's still going to leave me kind of fucked when the front happens, but details. That's a problem for future Ember. 10 days in the future, but still future Ember. It'll be fine. Maybe. Anyway, back on subject. Hellbound Hillbilly says, your bathwater has memory. What you did with that shower head got you in a spot in its spank bank. Got you a spot in its spank bank. I don't understand. Those were words. Okay.
No, you can, if you have a certain kind of shower head, you can have fun with it in the shower.
Oh my. And you know, if you want to have a good time, we offer garlic bread. Garlic bread. Like, oh my goodness, that's such a thing. But also, you know what's coming. I had to subvert expectations, but you know what's coming. If you need to get wet, we can help you out. Hey folks, I've been working hard on my health, and so far I've lost over 140 pounds. A huge part of good health is hydration. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Epic Water Filters. Check this out. Not only can you say goodbye to expensive bottled water, but these filters are made in the US, so no tariffs, and they're made to fit your life. From these lovely pitchers I can fill from, to sink units, to portable filters that fit in your reusable bottle. With Epic, I can refill from nature's water sources and not have to worry about bacteria and whatnot. But also, send back a used filter to be responsibly recycled, and they'll send you a free replacement, saving you and the earth even more. Want to save a ton of money, be healthier, and build a better world? Head to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 at checkout for 15% off. Don't settle for random water. Upgrade to Epic. Hell yeah. And if you do want to get wet, remember to stay hydrated, folks. Oh, goodness. Okay, so water does not demonstrably have memory. I mean, there's snowflakes, there's things you can say that can be like, it's like memory. It's not memory. It doesn't. That's not how anything works. But we went through this period where people were like, hey, this is snake oil. This is bullshit. Give me my money back. And so they tried to make it overcomplicated. They tried to, and this is where the science mimicry part really gets in there. This Jordan Peterson inserting real science tries to simplify. It tries to use parsimony to make things as simple and reduce to the lowest common denominator thing possible. Pseudoscience makes it more complicated so that you're like, wow, that sounds really scientific. I believe it. No, that's where that comes from. They kept trying to insert more jargon, they'd add instruments to make it look like it was experimental, like using thermometers or lately EM meters for ghosts. Creating all the facades of science. I can see in my microscope, we've got, the fluid water is holding a shape, and all kinds of bullshit. But what's not bullshit? Sapphire sends us a super chat for $5. Thank you, Sapphire. And says pseudoscience was established in 1769 when Edwin M. Pseudo decided to start his own science club with blackjack and hookers. And that is the best description I've ever heard. Yes. If I had gold stars, you'd get one for that.
That is awesome.
It's the fuck it, we're doing it live version of with blackjacks and hookers even. Oh, I love it so much. I literally, I cannot describe how many freaking nerd memes that description tripped, and it just tickles my brain.
Yeah, thank you. I'm such a nerd.
So 20th century, the demarcation problem. And this is where philosophers stepped in to show scientists how to do their thing. Because as much as I've talked shit about philosophers at previous points in this series, science is still a philosophy. It's a very, very derived philosophy, but its roots are philosophical in nature. And so Karl Popper shows up, bringing insights from the Vienna Circle and others, and he's like, all right, we need to define what science is, what ontologically makes a thing science. And so he proposed falsifiability. And yes, we made it to the 20th fucking century before we had real falsifiability. We would have covered this if we had been able to do the scientific method episode in its proper order. But real world things had other ideas. But we will get to the scientific method episode. It's just postponed. So fret not. Anyway, falsifiability. A scientific theory must be testable and have the potential to be proven false as the key differentiator. And we still use that today. That's the Journal of Social and Political Psychology, which, as it happens, I have an article from for another reason, because it explains there's a whole fucking model for why pseudoscience spreads like a social contagion. It has to do with the explanatory satisfaction phenomenon as well as group polarization. And we're going to highlight a couple of ways that happens, that works. That's what is literally happening with all the conspiracy theories. which of course, okay, you don't have to have a conspiracy theory to have a pseudoscience, but all conspiracy theories rely on a pseudoscience.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important distinction. It's sort of like how all Catholics are Christians, but not all Christians are Catholics.
Yeah.
But I do need to throw that out there.
So the gay frogs would be pseudoscience, correct? Because I was told that the gay frogs were real. Alex Jones.
Well, I mean, the gay frogs are technically falsifiable. It's just highly impractical. Like, it would be easier to bring us and show us a gay frog than to go out there and prove every frog is not gay.
I could just see some biologists being like, I would go prove that all frogs are not gay now.
And I have bad news. Frogs don't give a shit.
Yeah.
There's frog society is not homophobic. They have no reason to be. There's no one telling them God hates frog legs or whatever.
Nature is not.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is like, hey, whatever.
Yeah, actually, every single species that mates in the way we think of when it comes to sexual reproduction like that has documented instances of homosexuality. Humans are the only ones who give a fuck, and other species use it as a part of their social structure. Like there's certain bands of chimpanzees where the dominant male will show his dominance by having sex with the other males. Like, I'm the top, you're a bottom, you know, that sort of thing. And humans kind of still do that too.
In some personal news on that note, Kip and Daisy have decided that they are girlfriends now. So there is that.
Oh, yeah. But you know, it's just puppy love.
Puppy love is great. I love it. It is. It's amusing because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like come on. But yeah, I mean, hey, my dogs are getting along, so I'm happy.
I mean, never mind. That's if only we could all get along so easily. Oh, anyhow, yes. Right, falsifiability. So we have to be able to test the thing. You have to not only clarify your burden of proof, but you have to also present at least one successful experiment that tests your claim and fails to falsify it for anybody else to even consider looking at your nonsense. And this is one of the reasons that religion and science really started to butt heads, because people started proposing this very thing to people making religious claims. We're still waiting for any religious claimants to back up their claims. And it's been over 100 years, but never mind. So yeah, we use this as a framework to define pseudoscience. It formalized the concept of a pseudoscience as claims that look scientific, but aren't supported by reliable evidence, often resisting falsification, and are driven primarily by biases like magical thinking or political reasons. It basically, to put it in other words, the questionably noteworthy author Terry Goodkind once posited that people will believe any lie if given sufficient motivation, either because they want it to be true or because they are afraid that it is true. And pseudoscience often gives them both.
Yeah.
Without any actual reason to believe them.
Yeah, like I never actually thought of it that way, but yeah, like yeah, that fits.
So why does it keep persisting though? We've had, you know, a clear understanding of what the problem is and how to make it go away for 100 years now. So why is there still pseudoscience? Well, because people aren't always logical. In fact, often the people who make the greatest pretense towards being logical are the least logical.
Yeah, like I literally know somebody who is it's one of those things that I think people tend to people, especially in our community, sometimes tend to overestimate how intelligent some people can be. I literally had a senior citizen ask me what countries were in Europe and did not know that Britain was in Europe.
Well, I mean, in fairness, Britain thinks Britain isn't in Europe, so.
Yeah, but like continent-wise, and I'm just like, how do you not know this? Like you've been around since the 50s. How do you not know what countries are in Europe? But it's just one of those things that I think a lot of people don't. A lot of people tend to think that the stuff that they consider common knowledge, everybody considers common knowledge. So when you come across something that somebody does not know like that, it's just like, wait a second, what? So
I noticed that a long time when I think I was in, my grandmother used to say it's just common sense for like really obscure stuff that I'd never heard anyone ever say before. And I'm like, I don't think common sense means what you think it means, Grandma. And I noticed other people saying it for a similar reason. And I'm like, okay, so common sense means what I know and I assume everyone else also knows, even if the thing that you think you know isn't actually true, because it's just common sense is often used as a bolster for claims that are demonstrably false. And so I kind of watch out for that one. And so when I want to say that it's a well-known fact, I will say that. Or if I'm being very snarky, I'll say it's elementary, my dear Watson.
Yeah.
Not that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was necessarily the best scientific thinker around either, but it's funny. Details. Oh, goodness. Deviant points out the EU is not the same as Europe. And it's true. Like Ukraine, for example, petitioning for membership in the EU. It's a lot of Europe is in the EU, but the EU does not equal Europe. I didn't think that had to be explained, but you never know who's going to be watching, so we have to throw that out there. So we've got a couple of factors that go into why people keep subscribing to pseudoscience. Part of it is bad education, and they don't understand what makes a thing science or how to tell what's science and what's bullshit. And I blame our education systems for that. But also there's that psychological appeal, the simple, satisfying explanation for things. It gives people a sense of control. It reinforces group identity. We see this a lot with the gender essentialists, the misogynists who pretend they're trying to protect women and girls from minority women and girls, whether it's, trans women and girls or brown women and girls or lesbian women and girls. Like, it's always the same argument, and it's always for the same reason. They're misogynist and they're projecting at a smaller group in order to try to get pick-me status or whatever. The motives vary, but the methods are the same. They always subscribe to a pseudoscience in order to try to justify their demonstrably false bullshit. They often appeal to more complex things and try to build a relationship that doesn't actually exist in order to drag people along with their thing. You'll see stuff like that with flat earthers, for example, when you start pointing out that not only does flat earth have nothing to recommend itself, it has to do like creationists and attack evolution, painting that false dichotomy that if you knock down evolution, that makes creationism true by default somehow. Same thing with flat earth. They feel like if they can knock down the globe, then flat earth becomes true somehow. And when you say not only do you have no evidence in support of your own theory, but your attempts to knock down the globe model also all fail. All of them. And then they'll try to appeal to more complicated things. Like you'll hear a lot of them today after the final experiment, although in fairness, a few were doing it before, talk about like the electric universe and shit.
Yeah.
Which is even more false, but it's more complicated. So it makes you sound smarter,
Although I do like the model with Dapper standing on Antarctica. I do like that model.
Yep. That's my favorite flat earth so far.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a bunch of stuff. And the one that I specifically have not mentioned until this point, because it factors into the politics happening today, more so even than transphobia. Eugenics. Eugenics is a pseudoscience. It's based on a
Much so.
white supremacist perversion of a misunderstanding of the things Darwin laid out in the 1850s. And it's this idea that there's an inheritable characteristic that is independent of all other characteristics, just magically superior. It's a spiritual superiority that's passed on genetically. And apparently it's linked to the skin color gene, I guess. Whatever. This underlies the root of all kinds of stuff. Like racism existed before eugenics. But as soon as eugenics was thought of, the racists picked it right up and made it core to their whole thing. And that's where the Nazis got the idea, is from American eugenicists.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. It. Yeah.
All supremacist movements, all of them are based in eugenics.
Although now, like, somebody says eugenics, the first thing that pops in my head is Nazis. Like, that's the first thing that pops in my head. Granted, but I mean, yeah, it's God, it's one of those things that if you actually look at evolution, like, eugenics is such bullshit. Like, it's just it's and it's like damaging as hell too. Like it's contribute. There's some pseudoscience that, while the ideals, the ideas that it promotes are harmful, there's some that are genuinely very, very, very harmful, like anti-vaxxers and eugenics. But there's some where it's just kind of like astrology for the most part, like whatever. Like that's not causing it's not causing huge issues.
Right. There's a lot of things like that that are kind of silly, but generally harmless. But I draw a distinction because astrology, much like alchemy, is one of those things that precedes the modern understanding of science. It was still humans fucking around and trying to figure out how to figure things out, rather than people trying to mislead others, you know? Although it does get used for that these days, but it's mostly just silliness for entertainment. Mostly. Ay. So now I want to take this note of eugenics and really, really, really point at, how do you think eugenics is carried out in practice? How do you imagine, when you have this belief that one race or characteristic or group or whatever is inherently superior, and it's your holy duty or scientific duty or whatever, but it's your not just your goal, but your mission to ensure that superior group reproduces and inherits the earth? How do you imagine that gets carried out?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at history. I mean, slavery was a huge part of that too, with them. Like, that's one of the reasons that, or that's one of the things that, like, they tried to justify it after that came out, or justified the slavery and Jim Crow and discrimination and all that crap, is eugenics. Is just because they use it to justify their racism.
Well, I got to push back on that one, because there is a difference between believing incorrectly that your race has superiority over the other races. Like, that's not demonstrable. That's not, you can't show that. That's a claim, and it's based in hatred and ignorance. But that's not the same as eugenics. Eugenics is controlling the population.
Yeah.
By direct manipulation of who gets to reproduce.
Yeah, exactly. And especially in the earlier 20th century, with them stopping people who were handicapped from reproducing. Like, Helen Keller believed in eugenics, and I'm like, do you realize like how ridiculous that is? And yeah, it's just like, I mean, you see a lot of because like, of course, with mine, like I see a lot of like them stopping, a lot of like Nazis stopping disabled people from reproducing and just doing awful things and genociding people because of that, and they use eugenics to justify it.
Mm-hmm. And it's still being done.
Very much
Just a
so.
couple of years ago, there's a woman in South Carolina who sued the state just a couple of years ago because she was diagnosed with a learning disability, and the state performed a hysterectomy on her because she was diagnosed with a learning disability. They sterilized her for being mentally disabled, let's say. I don't have a really good word for it that isn't super offensive, and it's probably by design, but it's still happening. But no one talks about it.
That also happened. Same thing with people basically being forcibly sterilized. There was a story, or there were several reports several years ago about that it happened in a bunch of California prisons. And then it also happened in ICE facilities during during Orange Mussolini's first term, and apparently it's still happening. That they're doing forced sterilization. And the thing that people don't realize, and this is something that I always have to hammer home with people, forced sterilization is a form of genocide. It is. Look up the UN definition. Forced sterilization is there in the definition.
Yeah, genocide isn't just killing people, it's wiping out a people. And you can do that by wiping out their ability to reproduce.
Yeah.
You could sterilize them all and let them live to death. It's the kindest form of genocide, but it's still a genocide because once they all die off, that people group is gone. But sadly, it never stops with just that. But more specifically, I was referring to the other side of the coin. It's not just forced sterilization preventing some people from reproducing. It's forcing other people to reproduce. And that's
true. Yeah.
Central to American politics right now, where there's so many culture war fights that ultimately boil down to bodily autonomy, because at the very core of the nationalist movement is controlling women's reproduction.
They want us to be baby factories.
Right. The eugenics principle requires that women not have the ability to choose, that in fact they can be forced to carry a baby so that the patriarchy can declare who is having babies.
Yeah, I because of what I do mainly for a living, like I argue this with people all the time. So with my two kids, I had really severe health complication. My doctor basically told me, if you have another one, there's a very high likelihood you are going to die before you even get there. I literally had someone tell me to my face, well, you should have risked it, and if you die, you die. And orphan my kids. Like, they don't even consider that, and they don't care. They don't care. I mean, people are...
People who have no knowledge of fucking medicine either. Like, for fuck's sake, with Autumn, I had a subchorionic hematoma, which for anybody who doesn't know, that's a leak. That's when you just keep bleeding through the whole thing. And the doctors were like, your biology can't handle this. You need to terminate. You are going to die if you don't terminate. And I it's one of those situations where you just you're caught between a rock and a hard place. So we compromised. We went as far as we could before it was definitely going to be lethal, but she had the best. The point is, the people who don't know the medicine or anything at all of your own medical history and your own situation are super quick to judge. They're like, you need to do this because my magical belief says so, and never mind the facts and reality I'm blissfully unaware of.
I mean, this is how I finally got most of my family, even most of the conservatives I know on my side, is like, look, it's not about whether one person should or should not terminate a pregnancy. What it's about is, should the government have a say in it? Because does the government have a say in it, or do they not? And almost every single one of them will be like, well, yeah, you're right about like the government shouldn't have a say. And then I said, that's the whole point about being pro-choice. It's your choice on what you want to do. Yours, not the government's, not anyone else's. It's yours. Ugh.
Exactly. I've told this story before, but every video is someone's first video. I'm also a minister. I've performed a bunch of weddings. And one of the weddings I was performing happened to be for, a family of what we would now call red hats, but at the time they were just rednecks, right? Like there's people actually wearing camo at this wedding, that kind of group. And they're like, Reverend, let me ask you, what is your take as a person who cares about what is sacred on the abortion debate? And this was before Roe versus Wade got overturned. And I was like, well, I mean, obviously I'm pro-life. However, and this is a big fucking however, my view is that while I just can't do an abortion, it's just not compatible with me, right? But that doesn't mean I get to tell other people what's right for them. But more importantly, and this is where I really drilled into them as rednecks, as conservatives, it shouldn't be the government's place to say what's right. Whether you believe it's proper to terminate a pregnancy or not, whether you believe the infant is sacred or not, we should all be on the same side that the government shouldn't be telling any of us what to do.
Yeah,
and
then
everyone clapped.
Yeah, that's the argument that I have found works the best with either. I've even found it works with some red hats, but like just in case anybody's ever arguing against that, like that's a really good. It's a good argument that most people who are actually conservative will usually agree with, because they don't want the government in their business. So,
and as people, it blows people's minds, because like as liberal as I seem, I'm actually much more lefty, being a humanist than a liberal. A lot of people don't understand the distinction, but I actually hold traditionally conservative values on a lot of these things. I believe in the right to self-defense. I believe in the importance of conserving the environment. I believe in keeping the government the fuck out of your bedroom. All these sorts of things. And I am, on a personal level, pro-life. I actually do feel that way. But I very much feel that that is a very individual thing as well. I personally couldn't do it. I could not, even when my own health was at risk. I could not. But that doesn't mean, because of the traditional conservative values, I or the government should be telling anyone else how to live.
That's how that's how thankfully most of my family and most of the conservatives that I know here are, which thankfully there's not too many red hats, or at least not too many anymore down here, like in my particular neighborhood. So
and I do want to clarify, Red-Handed Seth says red hat does not equal redneck. I did not say they are.
No,
I said these people, we would have at the time called them rednecks. Today we would call them red hats, but we didn't use that terminology back then, because this was over 10 years ago. Hell, it was 20 years ago. Fuck, I'm old. Oh, But the point is, a lot of people do conflate the two. They're not the same, but I did not say they are the same.
I had a oh my god I'm old moment. I went to go get coffee yesterday. My grandson wanted to come with me. And so I got him a chocolate milk, and somebody was like, "Oh, your son's so cute." I'm like, "Oh no, he's my grandson." She's like, "There's no way you're that old." I'm just like, "No, I am. I am old enough to have a nearly 4-year-old grandson." And it's just like, it's one of those things that until I hit 40, my age on my birthday never really like hit me. Like I never felt older on my birthday until last year. And I'm just like, I'm hoping that doesn't happen again this year.
I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about birthdays, as you all know. But I'm in a similar boat with the age thing. If my oldest had had a child at the same age I was when they were born, I'd have a grandchild who is 5 years old now, ish.
Although I do have, yeah, I do have to say my grandson's, I don't think even if I get dementia years from now, I could ever forget my grandson's birthday, because I kid you not, it's 2/22/22. Straight across the board. It's the coolest thing. But yeah, it's just like, it's one of those things that being a grandparent makes you feel strangely older than you are. Like I'm 40, so
I get
feel
that.
like
Like when my oldest was born,
Mhm.
both mothers, I guess, I don't know. My mother and the other parent's mother were both
Mhm.
like, "I'm too young to be a grandma." And I'm like, "Bestie, you're almost 50." Like, that's
My mom
grandma
said
age.
that.
So you
Yeah,
can
my
be in your
mom
50s and 60s with the grandchild, you know?
My mom said that.
That's
She
when
was
they're
like
supposed
mid.
to happen.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, you're old enough. I'm just a little young to be a mom. Because I
Now,
was
that's
19 when my
a
first one.
whole other thing, is my family,
Mhm.
especially on my mother's side, tended to reproduce very young. I was 21 when my oldest was born, and that gave me a 5-year delay over when
Oh
the
wow.
next most longest waiting person, 'cause, like, literally, my mother waited the longest out of anybody in her brood, and she was 16 when she had my half sister.
Mm.
And my grandmother,
Yeah.
I don't know what age she was when she started, but she started pretty young because she managed to have 5 children before her husband went and died in World War II.
Oh
So,
wow.
I mean, technically he died slightly after, but whatever. Details. So yeah, we as far back as we can trace, um, with some notable exceptions, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, very young. We start with
Mhm.
the children, and so I waited. Well, I didn't wait. It's not like I consciously waited. I actually I attempted to have children younger, but nothing
Mhm.
really stuck. I had one person whom I was engaged to that we made it to 3 months before there was a miscarriage.
Mhm.
So it's not for lack of trying. It just yeah. Anyhow, I want to
And
try to
this is
get
why
us
you
on
don't.
something.
I was about to
What's
say,
that?
this is why you teach children science from a young age, so they don't fall into the pseudoscience crap.
Right. I want to run our little supercut of what happens when people buy into pseudoscience and try to make it public policy.
I have a problem with this stuff being normalized across the spectrum, and specifically, like, why push this on kids? Why introduce this to kids?
I am a depraved wretch. I am a great sinner. I'm a worm, completely undeserving of any love or any grace. I'm nothing.
You're incapable of being a good person. You're an evil person. You're a terrible person. At the core fabric of who you are. That's why we need laws. We need laws because we're bad people. All of us are bad people.
You can't spell Pride Month without demon. PRIDEMONTH.
If we don't know who the women are, because they are just people, then we won't be able to pull the women up to equality with men.
We have to try to limit the harm. And that means reducing or keeping down the number of people who transition. And that's for two reasons. One of them is that every one of those people is a person who's been damaged. But the second one is every one of those people is basically, you know, a huge problem to a sane world.
Transgenderism must be eradicated.
The LGBT, transgender, grooming our children's minds is a national security threat. We need to hold people for treason, start having some public hearings, and start executing people.
I will use whatever gives me victory. I don't care about the truth, and I don't care about the law. I care about one thing, the control.
But then they rigged the election, and now we won, so I'm going to be your president. And what happened is they rigged the election, and I became president, so that was a good thing.
I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president, but I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
I just want to say I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes.
It was actually a tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed and go to heaven and be with God.
We've been hoodwinked. We've been taken in by an ideology crafted by creeps and then pushed on children.
Stop letting people pressure you into thinking.
If they die, they die.
I want to be ignorant, honestly.
Being a Christian doesn't exclude us from experiencing spiritual dryness.
We're bad people. All of us are bad people.
Now, does belief in pseudoscience make you a bad person? Not necessarily. Everybody makes mistakes, and people can get drawn into things without really being aware of it. This is how cults work, for example, is they bring in people, try to get around their rationality and critical thinking, get them emotionally invested in an idea, and then slowly introduce the nonsense while continuing to fire them up emotionally to override their bullshit detectors. And eventually they find themselves so justify holding on to this belief that they're now burdened with. It's a whole thing. There's a whole process. We're still studying how cults work and why. We have a few different models for how cults maintain control, but the process of indoctrination, it seems to be the same as religions use, honestly. They start with as young as you can get them before they learn how to think. There are ways to do it with adults, but it's less effective. The good news is, though, if you are a wannabe cult leader who's got a pseudoscience you want to promote, you can indoctrinate people at an older age, and then through the use of various specific psychological techniques, can make them choose the moral wrongs, and so effectively create a sunk cost fallacy bias such that they will continue to defend the thing they now know is wrong for the purposes of not having to face the music on the horrible choices they've made. All the horrible things we've done are justified because of pseudoscience belief. You see how that works? And we see that playing out today with all the stuff in that supercut, from the racism, the sexism, the we're killing the right people, the I want to be ignorant because if they die, they die. That's where we're at with the forced sterilizations that are still happening in the US today. That's where we're at with the genital mutilation of infants who don't fall into the binary. All sorts of things, all sorts of horrible, horrible things. And by compelling the inductees into the cult to commit these horrible acts, it makes them buy into the underlying ideology and commit to it being true, even though they now have positive evidence that it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's the grossest form of emotional manipulation because, as the old sages often said, if you can convince people to believe absurdities, you can make them commit atrocities.
Yeah.
I said that about religion. And sometimes that's true, but it's not religion per se. It's the bullshit you make people believe through the religion. In that context, the religion is just the vehicle for what we would now call pseudoscience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Completely agree with that.
It's a big part of why it predominantly, disproportionately affects women, because the control of reproduction, the loss of bodily autonomy for everyone, both of these hurt women more than anyone else, but also the damage to everyone. When all of society suffers, it tends to be, in a patriarchal system especially, the women who get hit the hardest. If you live in, say, a heteronormative relationship, one man, one woman, whatever, and the husband has to deal with excessive crap, excessive stress, harassment at work, and the political pressure keeps piling on, and he starts looking for an escape. He starts looking for someone to blame. He can vent his frustration at to try to make things better, or at least pretend he still has some control in his life, and not to excuse his behavioral choices, just to try to understand why these things happen. He may go after immigrants. He may go after people of another race. He may go after his wife, because ultimately, statistically, the vast majority of domestic abuse cases happen not because the husband hates the wife, but because the wife is there. She's the person he can reach with his fists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So all this ties together.
Yeah. It really does, and it still surprises me how some people are like, "Oh, I never made that connection," and it's like, yeah, it all, one thing leads to another. It's so obvious. Or this is what I mean about about what seems to be common sense to you. You tend to think everybody has the same knowledge. Like, this is common sense to me, but it's just one of those things that this is not the common sense across humanity. It should be, but it's not.
Well, see what, again, I'm not a big fan of the phrase common sense for the reasons we talked about earlier, but it does seem like it should be a well-known thing.
Yeah.
But that has to do with education, because we make a lot of these connections. Okay, quick concept: synthesis. We pick up bits and pieces of knowledge from various sources we're exposed to, whether it's school or educational programming or direct engagement, sort of like this sort of thing. And we start to put those things not just as independent, standalone facts, we put them together like a puzzle, or like weaving a blanket. And that's synthesis. That's how you create understanding, as different from just knowing a bunch of facts. And that's how you start to see how things interweave and how they work together and with each other. And we don't always form a coherent blanket. Sometimes it gets fucked up, and that's why we need to constantly challenge our beliefs and preconceptions, so we can see where we missed a stitch and there's a hole in our understanding, and we need to repair that. But it's important that we recognize that the synthesis that we've created and that so many other people have created, the blanket we've woven with the bits of information we have, are only possible because we all have the same bits of information. People who aren't exposed to that information, people who are miseducated, for example, they're brought up in schools where they're taught creationism and told evolution is a fairy tale. They don't have the same bits of information, and so they're not going to synthesize the correct understandings, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I literally grew up in one of those schools, and it still surprised me how many people I went to school with are still young earth creationists. Like, it's just,
And that's just an easy one to point the finger at, because young Earth
Mhm.
creationism tends to target evolution in the schools, which is weird because you don't necessarily have to reject evolution. In fact, the young Earth
Just a
creationists believe in
theory.
an evolution way more powerful than biologists do. They
Mhm.
propose this idea, their baraminology theory, that all the animals who got off the ark hyper reproduced and hyper evolved. Like every single species was giving birth to like 4 to 6
Yeah.
different species in the next generation in order to get to
Yeah,
the species we have today.
I mean, it's one of those things that, like, I've looked at the claims of like Ham and them, and it's one of those things, and it's like, even if, like, even if I were to look at evolution and be like, this is crazy, there's no way that this is true. Like, their version of it is so much crazier. Like, it's just
Yeah, they say evolution doesn't work, but also we need hyper evolution to make our model work. So what you're saying is your model doesn't work, bestie.
Mhm.
Come
The
on
heat
now.
problem.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
whole other thing. But I do want to say, once more for the record, I do have a solution to the heat problem, and I will sell it to Ken Ham for the cost of ending world hunger. If he foots up the money to end world hunger, I will give him gleefully the answer to his fucking heat problem, and he can go play pretend with it all day long. I'm fine with that, because we'll get the end of world hunger out of it.
Yeah, that will probably. Yeah, I'd make that trade off. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that for any creationist, not just Ken Ham. It's
Mhm.
just Ken Ham I know happens to have the money to do that. He has enough in the bank to just end world hunger.
Oh yeah.
Fucking hell. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah. Ugh, craziness.
All right, so let's our tangents and whatnot have slowed us down a little bit, but it's okay because we got most of the important points that I wanted to make. I said at the beginning, I'll go back to making us visible, that I wanted to show what makes science real, Popper's philosophy, falsifiability, repeatability, empirical evidence, what makes pseudoscience not, the inability to do those things, and the fraudulent pretense of overcomplicating things to fool people, and why it all disproportionately impacts women. Now, reproduction and control of bodily autonomy is just one way. There are others. For example, education. Women tend to be less well educated than men, which makes women more likely to fall victim to all sorts of bullshit, from homeopathy to anti-vax stuff. Which is why we have so many children who aren't vaccinated now.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I think it starts so young, because there's this just like kind of idea out there that girls are not good at science and they're not good at math. And so there's not the effort to help them with it, to let them get good at it. Like, I was good at science, I was good at math, and people were like, "Oh my god, you're a girl and you're good at science and math." I'm like, yes, okay. And yeah, it's just like it's one thing that I always saw is I always saw like there was massive resistance with it. Like, if I needed help understanding algebra, my teacher would be like, "Well, you'll get it eventually." But of course, they'd help all the boys all the time. I mean, it just it's
sexism
ridiculous
is
how much like
wild.
that. Yeah.
And the sexism, while it isn't necessarily pseudoscience, it comes from the same place of bias and motivated reasoning. It's culture, it's patriarchy, people who want to control things telling you women are inferior.
Yeah.
And then they lay out a few demonstrably false claims of specific ways women are inferior. And all of them are false. Like, you, at the level of the population, you can make the case that statistically men are stronger than women in a few specific ways, but you have to get really cherry picky with the data to show that, you know? Because if you want to measure physical capability, pound for pound, a male not so good at pushing babies out, for example. You know, that
No.
takes a different kind of strength. Endurance, women excel compared to males. Agility, dexterity, precision of movement, perception, like, not to be sexist against males, because there are things that males do very, very well, but like lifting heavy things seems to be the crown glory of male physical prowess, you know? And that's that kind of, when you want to stack things up head to head like that, it kind of makes men look actually a little bad. So maybe making that argument isn't the way sexists really want to go about this, you know? Fucking hell.
Yeah.
And there's so much to this, you know, the different ways conceptualization works, neuronal structures, because there's a lot of neurological differences. Now, to be clear, humans are barely a dimorphic species. Like, to a tyrannosaur, they can't tell us apart. It's only us and a few other primates that are like, okay, and dogs. Dogs can tell who's male and who's female, but that's neither here nor there. Because there are dogs who do not like men, you know?
Yeah, mine don't.
For example, but I digress. But there are, when you get down to that fine grain level where there are differences, there's so many differences. They're just very, very, very minor. And it goes to memory, recall, speed of recall, the way associations work. And this is an interesting one, because male often get hung up on this idea of being logically brained. Women are emotionally driven and men are pure logic, but they're not. Almost all the things men do are emotionally driven and then justified post hoc by the pretense of logic, because humans are an emotional species. We can use logic to inform our decisions, but that's true for every human. The better we understand logic, the more we're inclined to do that. But here's the thing, is the men who make the pretense of logic the hardest, not only do they use logic the least in their own decision making, but they're also the most limited, because women who oppose that sort of thing, they tend to propose a more holistic approach. Like, it's almost baffling the way a person's perspective becomes limited when they insist on using strict linear logic as opposed to a broader understanding, like we were talking about earlier, with taking bits of knowledge and weaving together a more encompassing understanding, doing the synthesis thing, the creation of wisdom. Men are like 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. And I'm stereotyping here. I realize I'm broad brushing for the sake of brevity because we don't have much time. But these men, they're like 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. Whereas we're over here like 3 × 3 is 9. You know, we're in a whole different order of operations. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's better, just that it works differently. And sometimes, in some situations, more effectively than 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, you know? Irish DC says, never trust a person who doesn't like dogs, but always trust a dog when they don't like a person. And that's sound fucking advice.
Yep.
Dogs are.
I wish I would have listened to that.
Absolutely. All right, we are just about out of time, so we don't have an opportunity to get into this today, but I do want to show you what it is. And like I teased at the beginning, it's from the Journal of Social and Political Psychology. This is an abstract for a paper called The Explanation Polarization Model. Pseudoscience Spreads Through Explanatory Satisfaction and Group Polarization. And maybe we'll do a part 2 on this to really get into this. Like, this one is, where does pseudoscience come from? What makes a pseudoscience? And then we'll do a part 2 that's like, how does pseudoscience spread? Why is it still around? That sort of thing. Because there's quite a lot to it. There is a lot to it. But we can go through the abstract real quick, just to tease y'all in case we do get a part 2, which we might. You never know. But also, remember to share all the videos, but especially this one because the shit we're talking about is really fucking important. And a lot of people will never be exposed to this information because our educational system is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
For example, O.M. Praka, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your whole name. I'm very bad at pronouncing names. But OMP says, my favorite woman scientist has to be Barbara McClintock. She's a Nobel Prize winner for a discovery that took 20 years of microbiology research to prove to the rest of the world. I've heard the name, but I can't remember her specific accomplishment. That's a thing we could do on Job and Jugs one of these days. We already have a topic in mind for this coming Monday, but like women scientists you've heard of but haven't really heard of, that could be a good topic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, neat stuff. Anyway,
Ooh, yeah, I know a few.
Definitely. I'm thinking of several people who helped participate in the mathematics to make the moon landings happen. There's so many that just pop right to mind that have interesting stories that no one's ever heard. But I digress. This article presents an integrative model. It's a synthesis. It's integrative for the endorsement of pseudoscience, the explanation polarization model. It's based on a combination of perceived explanatory satisfaction and group polarization, offering a perspective different from the classical confusion-based conception, which is to say, baffle them with bullshit, in which pseudoscientific beliefs would be accepted through a lack of distinction between science and science mimicry, lack of education. First, I, as in the author of this paper, discuss the confusion-based account in the light of current evidence, pointing out some of its explanatory shortcomings. Second, I develop the explanation polarization model, showing its explanatory power in connection with the recent research outcomes in cognitive and social therapy. Now, what's interesting is that this person is laying out the idea that pseudoscience propagates because of the ability to create satisfactory explanations, even if they aren't true. And it rejects the existing explanation because it's not satisfactory, and then presents itself as being a more satisfactory explanation. So in a way, its own hypotheses apply to itself. And I find that fun. Discussions of pseudoscience often offer a multidisciplinary analysis of the long history of popular beliefs that challenge the scientific mainstream. Now, challenge, I take issue with the use of that word because there's not actually a challenge. There's, it's presenting alternative facts, but that doesn't make them equally likely to be true. It's fucking wild. Oh, fucking hell. All right. Well, we'll have to get into this more another time because we're already over our normal limit. And also, I want to respond to this nonsense. Jacob77 says, do you believe that chemically castrating children who can't consent, points for alliteration, because they are a protected group, pseudoscience? I believe that misstating something that you don't fully understand because you have a bias against it for some emotional reason is a lot closer to pseudoscience. There's a couple things that you clearly don't understand, either because you have an inclination or a religious preconception or a dogmatic belief of some kind. Suffice it to say, the use of the term chemically castrating children shows you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, because that's not how anything works, friend. Maybe learn the first thing about what you're talking about. No one is chemically castrating children. That's not part of the process. That is emotionally charged language that deliberately misrepresents what's actually happening and trying to take away life-saving medical care from children because you have a bias is one of the most horrible things a human could possibly do. But thanks for stopping by. Oh my goodness. So that's a fun little rant. I hope y'all enjoyed. And more importantly, I hope you all learned a bit about pseudoscience and can help understand why people go wrong, how people go wrong. No, sorry, buddy. That's you. That's you, buddy. So for anybody listening, Jacob says you are a predator. You are the one out to hurt children. You're going to get children killed with your bullshit that is not backed by science. That makes you the predator. But thanks for playing. Thank you all so much for joining us. As always, remember, you don't have to pose yourself as this righteous, holier-than-thou bullshit artist, blissfully ignorant of all the science on the subject, so you can moralize at other people while putting children at risk, because you are better than religion and pseudoscience and cults and, hatred generally. Fuck the haters. We'll see you on Monday, if not sooner. Mwah! Toodles. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for November. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Trans Metal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkisson, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Godless Engineer, Jester, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, The Mighty Filbert, and Secular Phalanist. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which also includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you all so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out, can't make a stop.